Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of SCUM. This is the podcast where we dive into the deepest, darkest, murkiest waters with a plethora of legendary guests. And who better to interview legends than a legend himself? That's right. I am your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag, Rex Ruger. That's Rex with 3 X's, ladies. 3X type dirty. That's the way I roll. You might also know me as the man with the golden voice and the velvet tongue, a.k.a. the hair metal high priest, a.k.a. the king of sleaze, and most importantly, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. That's right. I am the son of glam, the front man for the band. Got a million fans, just smoked a few grams. I'm your ice cream man, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam. Hot damn. Coming to you, as always, from the Pink Pussycat Lounge, a.k.a. the Den of Sin. Joined, as always, by my new co-host here, Mr. Keith Hernandez. Say hi, Keith. He doesn't say much. He's always sleeping off a bender or a Coke binge, whichever. But today we got a good one for you. We got a close, dear friend of mine who, yes, is a musician. But don't let that change your feelings about him as I go and invite him here. And we will get him in here momentarily here. Let me give a little product placement here. If you want looking at this hair and saying, how do I get the locks that rock? Well, there it is, folks. Spray responsibly, kids. Let me give myself a look here. Even though he's an old friend, still want to look good for old friends. You know what I mean? Well, yep. It's true. It's impossible for me not to look good. This is, of course, the No Frills podcast. Why no frills? Because you're looking at plenty of thrills right here. So I guess we will get right down to it here. Looks like our guest is here to join us. So you don't even got to listen to me spew on and on about my numerous bands and how I'm the hardest working man in show business. Not today. Because today, Pod Scum's diving right in. There he is.
There he is.
Ray J. Currie. A lot of people don't know that the J stands for jerk off, but they do now.
I think most people know that, but I appreciate you reminding them.
Yeah. From the great North Carolina band OUTLIAR. I can call you guys a great band, right?
If you think so, sure.
I usually deal with a lot of legends on here, so I'd like to say, speaking of legends, I saw some legends the other night.
Nice.
I was at the Bay Area show. Some friends of yours are probably were in that show.
For sure, man. That's awesome, dude. For sure. Where was that one?
Albany, Empire Live. Never been there before.
Okay, yeah. I think I see a lot of shows coming up there. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great show, man.
I thought it would be the old Northern Lights place, but apparently that place is done and gone.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, I want to ask you, man, the last album you guys put out, Taste the Blood, in 2018, what's it been, a couple of years now? What do you think you are, Metallica? You just get to take 4, 5, 6 fucking years to make an album?
I guess a lot of nothing. This crazy thing called the pandemic, and not getting together, not playing shows, clubs closing down.
Well, in all fairness, I should tell people you don't do this for a living, though. This is not your primary.
That is true, but definitely not without the desire to write stuff. But I will say, on the heels of this, and it's an exclusive, but who better to share it with than you? We just booked studio time. We'll be recording with Jamie King in April of 23. So we've got that set up. We're going to do an EP there, which seems to be kind of the move here lately, and I get it.
Will my father be tapped for any guest vocals?
I've been trying to get a hold of him. I was hoping you could hook it up, but I won't be disappointed.
He seems to want to not acknowledge that he has a son in upstate New York. So go figure. I don't know.
It's a striking resemblance, so I don't know why I wouldn't want to embrace this.
I forgot to let you know though that big news since we talked last, man. I have kind of classed up the show a little bit and added a co-host back there, Keith Hernandez.
It's excellent. It's excellent.
A little bit, yeah. He doesn't say much though. I told the audience he's usually either coming off of a bender or a 2 or 3 day Coke binge. You know how Keith rolls.
That's right. Or potentially Aaron Judge's 61st home run, whatever. And
we won't talk about that. We'll talk about that later. We'll get into sports later. Go on with the album stuff though. That's exciting.
Yeah. So no, dude, you're absolutely right. It's been a long time since Taste the Blood. We played a bunch of shows. We kind of got sick and tired of playing our own stuff all the time as well. And we're like, man, we got to do something. But if there wasn't one thing, it was another thing. And like I said, the pandemic didn't help matters. We all got jobs or whatever, so we're not doing this full time. So it takes some effort and some inspiration, right? It kind of sucked. I had plans to bring violence here back in March of 2020, and the governor here closed things down 5 days before that show was supposed to go off. So
I think we should clarify for the people of North Carolina, though, because you do live in North Carolina, that he wasn't literally going to bring violence to North Carolina. To ban violence.
That's right.
There wasn't going to be any kind of like hate march or anything like that, or any kind of like the band. Right. There is a band out there, kids, called Violence.
That's right. Check them out for sure on the upswing once again. But so we were all set to go, ready to do that. Obviously a childhood favorite of mine, and a lot of ties. Obviously, Bay Area thrash, at its some of its finest, and I'm a huge fan of that whole scene. But and that went sideways 5 days before we were scheduled to kick it off, and it was a deflator to say the very least. So we didn't play, we didn't practice anything. Everybody didn't know what the hell to do for 6-7 months, and so we finally got it back on the rails and started focusing on writing new stuff. And we're about 2 songs through the process of doing this EP. It'll either be 5 or 6 songs. We're not quite sure. We might throw in a, really kind of, unknown cover type thing, from one of the bands that we really love. And, so we're excited about that for sure. And, things are picking up a little bit, obviously worldwide, but certainly in North Carolina, the opportunities to play here have disappeared to a high degree because a lot of the clubs have closed. Which sucks. Really kind of destroyed the scene, and so the shows are few and far between. We did something with Crowbar and Spirit Adrift back in August in Chapel Hill. There's a lot of shows at a club there called Local 506, which is cool. And then we just announced yesterday we're doing a Winter Metal Fest here at the Lincoln Theater, which is a pretty legendary club in Raleigh. So that's going to be a good show. So it'll be a nice primer, and then get us in the studio in April and start this thing back up all over again with some new material finally.
Now, you mentioned possibly a cover on there, but just to switch lanes for a minute, there probably won't be a cover of Bathroom Wall on there, though, correct? Because there is some tension between one Ray Currie and one Tay Me Down. That's right, we're calling out Tay Me Down right now.
That's right, man. This is a feud that's been going on for at least 30 years. And
can't we just mend fences and heal? And first of all, does Tay Me even aware that this axe is being grinded as we speak?
I would think he hasn't slept with anything more than one eye open for 30 plus years.
Well, it was pretty testy. I mean, fucking knives were on the verge of coming out. I mean, it got pretty testy. And your contention was that he did not belong in a death metal show.
I still hold true to that, and almost got stabbed in the process at the right age.
Not from that scene. Well, now, if Tay Me Down were by some minuscule chance, because I'm very minuscule right now in the early stages of podcasting, but if by some off chance he were to see this episode, how can we heal this? What would you say to a Tay Me Down right now?
I don't know. I'm still in shock that I was going to get stabbed, and I think we'd have to hash it out here. I mean, it's really the only way to solve this thing is to hash it out right here.
Yeah. Or maybe we could just pull a tag team, maybe me and you against him and one Phil Fasciana.
It's perfect.
We'll just get all the lunatics in here. I mean, this platform that I use can accommodate numerous people, man. So we just have a big roundtable discussion and just, there
you go.
Be something like NATO or something,
We'll solve the world's problems for sure. Yeah, that was funny. For people who don't know that story, I don't know. I think it was a worldwide story, but we'll remind everybody about the Ray Currie Tay Me Down feud. But when I was 15 or 16 or something, I went to go see Cannibal Corpse had just signed with Metal Blade. They were on the Eaten Back to Life record. They came down to Syracuse, New York at the Lost Horizon, as we all know and love through years and years of awesome shows.
Legendary club.
Yeah, they were playing with Deicide. Was their record had just come out, their debut, so they took Cannibal on tour. Those guys were tight back then, and so I went to that show and I recognized this guy somehow, and stupid 15-year-old drunk me decides to punk this dude down. Like, what are you doing at the show? Like this, back in the day it was a lot different. There was an exclusivity.
You took umbrage with him being at a show outside of his own genre.
That's right. And in truth, the dude should have punched me in the mouth, but he didn't. But on the other side, I found out from Chris Barnes's girlfriend or wife or whatever at the time, way back, she and I had crossed paths, and she said, "Yeah, I was at that show in Syracuse. Tay Me Down was there." I was like, "I know," and I was like, and I started jamming on this guy, and she's like, "Oh, you were that dude?" She's like, "He had a knife. He was going to stab you." So, needless to say, I've been grinding this axe for 30 plus years.
Well, I mean, I do kind of respect the fact that he was going to pull a violent act at a Cannibal Corpse deicide show, though. You got to at least respect the fact that he was packing some steel.
He must have been into it. I give him credit for being there. He must have been a huge fan, ready to just disembowel me right in the pit,
Was Tay Me Down ever spotted in a mosh pit, though?
I would go with no there. I would go with no.
You didn't see him in the mosh pit. But, but obviously putting our enemies aside, though, you've also, being that you don't do this full time, you have also made a lot of friends in the industry, though. I want to talk about some of the guys that you're cool with in the industry. Give a shout out to some of them.
Oh, sure, man. I've been lucky enough being a fan of this stuff my entire life and crossing paths with some cool guys, whether it be thrash or death metal, it's a fun story. Back, so Violence, the band, was always my jam. And there was their singer, Sean Killian, most people know if they're into that stuff, that he was looking for a liver transplant and, things were really grave. And so I bought a t-shirt, for a benefit thing for Sean.
Yeah.
And then I caught wind that there was going to be a benefit show. So I bought some tickets for that. And lo and behold, we were playing a couple shows back in 2017 with Cannibal Corpse. And we were in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I wore that Killian and Kings t-shirt that like Rob Flynn from Machine Head fame, Violence fame before that, had printed up. And somebody snapped a picture of that and sent it and tagged Craig LaCicero of Forbidden fame. So Craig thought it was cool. We started talking on Facebook, and he had asked, "Hey, are you coming out to the show?" And so long story short, we kind of hooked up on that. And I went to their rehearsals, and it was like an all-star cast, man. Guys from Testament, Death Angel, Exodus, Heathen. You pick the band. And so I was out there and just kind of jamming out, singing some
hobnobbing.
songs.
You were hobnobbing.
I was hobnobbing, professional hobnobbing,
rubbing elbows.
Yeah, and so it's just there, kind of really a fish out of water, because the 15-year-old me is coming out like, oh my God, these are dudes, that I grew up just worshiping and still do those records. I mean, they're legendary. So nonetheless, a couple of the guys hadn't showed up for the rehearsal, and so Dean Dell, their bass player at the time, Violence's bass player at the time, had said, "Hey man, this guy's singing all these songs, get him up on stage." And I'm a couple beers deep, and Steve Smythe, who he did a lead for us on the Taste of Blood record, actually, and he played in like a Nevermore. He's in One Machine right now. Super cool guy, ripping guitar player. Played in Forbidden. He played in Testament. I mean, this guy's been all over the place. And so, so Steve said, "Hey Ray, you want to get up here and sing?" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yes." So I get up there and channel my Sean Killian somehow, which I don't have that in me. So, but we were just having a good time and sang a bunch of tunes with them, and came back Friday, did the same thing, and Saturday, Craig. Was helping him out with a couple different things as they were, he was managing a lot of stuff. It was a big show, like 2,500 people at the venue there in San Francisco. And so Craig was like, "Hey man, why don't you come up and, kind of help out with the Bio Choir," he called it. So man, it was a dream come true. So, meeting a lot of those guys and, Testament, Exodus, Death Angel, Forbidden, all that stuff. I mean, just the coolest guys you'd imagine. And through the years, just being good friends with the guys from Cannibal Corpse, Alex Webster, namely, and, George, is a great friend rocking his Corpse Grinder shirt. And all those guys in that band, it's just awesome. They're hitting on every cylinder right now. So, just lucky enough to be a fan, but also talk to those guys here and there. And probably much like what you're doing, talking to dudes in these bands and, kind of geeking out a little bit like, "Hey man, I looked up."
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
Everybody's humble. This has always been a humble industry to begin with. So really fortunate to have some cool connections there.
It
for
just
sure.
boggles my mind when you see like their faces pop up, because it still gets surreal, because I always still believe like, okay, this isn't really going to happen. I'm not going to really sit here and like James Murphy's going to pop up on my screen, or somebody from King or somebody from this band or that band. It just can't happen. I'm sitting here in my guest bedroom. You know what I mean? Like in front of a computer. It's hard not to geek out. I mean.
Yeah. It's, like I said, man, really humble. James also a good friend, and James had told me one time, he's like, kind of everybody who's, in this circle that we live in, it's like we all eat at the same cafeteria. And I don't want to include myself because I'm on the outside looking in. But, it was a profound statement, I thought, because it really is like all those bands they all know each other, and they've all been through the same stuff, hustling for the same, notoriety, and money has always been secondary, right? But it's just cool. But seeing like that Bay Area Strikes Back tour that you just went to. I saw it down here in Raleigh as well, and a caught up with the guys from Death Angel and stuff. Some of
I
the
see
nice
it, and it's nice to see it among the band, among the what you would perceive to be rival bands. You know, what I mean, like you said, everybody from the same scene, but everybody seems to be grabbing for the same nickel nowadays in the music industry. But these guys really have a real sense of camaraderie, though. You know, they're all they're like a bunch of brothers traveling around.
Yeah, and they have pushed the envelope for thrash for plenty of years. I mean, 30, 40 years. Creators as big as they've ever been, touring with King Diamond, Lamb of God, like all these kind of things, and so. It's just been really cool to watch that stuff develop because, as you well know, there was a lot of hard times in the early 90s where thrash was non-existent and death metal was barely on the surface kind of stuff,
Yeah. Well, I think that what amazed me the most about the show the other night was, Death Angel to me is like a young old band because they did take a long hiatus. They were inactive for a long time. So they seem to have still a lot left in the tank. But Exodus, though, elder statesmen certainly in the scene, man, but they just brought so much energy, though. Lots of energy, lots of antics, lots of movement on the stage. You know what I mean? And of course, Gary Holt is just a fucking beast.
Yeah, it's a great tour for sure. And Death Angel, keep in mind, those guys got started when we were listening to them. We were 15 and 16. They were just getting started. So they're our age and they're still going for it. But Death Angel is really one of my favorites, man. I love everything they've done in the last.
And nice guys too.
Super nice. Like I said, I mean, how could you not have a good time going to something like that?
I feel like you take those three bands that are on that tour right now and you add, I guess, insert one more band. And to me, that would feel more like an organic big four. You know what I mean? I know, commercial success and like notoriety aside, you know what I mean? Like, I think those are the guys that have flown the flag more consistently,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think a lot of those bands haven't really had any hiccups. I mean, obviously Metallica has had numerous hiccups. I mean, I still love them and all, I mean, a lot of these bands wouldn't be here without them, but they've made some missteps in the eyes of the fans. And certainly, I mean, like when you're a thrash metal band and you're putting out an album with, blood and cum on the cover. I don't know that that's always the most flattering thing to do.
It sounds cool. It sounds cool on the surface, but the way it turned out was not so cool.
I guess when you're sitting around think tanking it, like, wow, the album will have this on it. And then, the finished product, not so much. But still a legendary band, though. But and then I just saw the week before that, went and saw Megadeth. Dave Mustaine still rocking fucking hard.
Big time. Yeah, for sure.
Just bounced back from throat cancer. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that record is, it's a ripper, man. I mean, it's interesting to listen to, all the stuff that was on that. I think Steve DiGiorgio played the bass on that. And, I mean, it's just, his musicianship is killer, and Metallica, same thing. I saw him a couple of years ago, and sure, they're not the same Metallica that we grew up, in 83, 84, but who is, right? And so I give them a pass probably a lot more than a lot of other people do, because I look at it like when Metallica decides to hang it up, we are going to suffer a huge loss as a metal community and not from the sake of like, hey, they've given up, but like, they are, I think I read somewhere they were like number 6 in terms of touring revenue in the last 40 years. I mean, just to wrap your head around that, and the people in front of that are like Drake and, Elton John. And so, I mean, it's just amazing that a band that started out as a thrash band has had that sustainability. I'm behind it. I don't care how good or bad the stuff sounds. And I always say if it wasn't called Metallica and you heard that record, the last one they put out, you'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool. So it's just they get chided because they're Metallica. And
okay, so I think, and now we tried to do this before in other discussions and failed miserably, or at least I feel like I failed miserably. But let's make it a little more interesting. If we were to take the big four off the board, and then we pick the best 5 thrash albums of all time, how about that? No big four included.
Man,
so get your fucking Master of Puppets out of there. That's off the board.
Yeah. That's tough because
I've got him right here. I've got the correct answers, but I want to hear your correct answers.
When you take Master of Puppets off the board, which is my certifiable number 1, it's tough to put it in order on the fly, but
it doesn't got to be in a particular order. Don't worry about order.
Certainly, Violence, Eternal Nightmare for me personally.
On mine too.
For us, it's a love or hate record, but I love it.
Yeah.
I'd throw Creator, Extreme Aggression in there.
On mine as well.
Yeah.
I
love Terrible Certainty and Pleasure to Kill, but Extreme Aggression was just another level. One of my closet favorites also would be Coroner, No More Color.
Okay.
It's the technicality is unbelievable. That album
I will throw in then I will touche that with Flotsam and Jetsam, No Place for Disgrace. I love those guys, also, and they're fantastic. They're fantastic guys too. And you know what? I've had Eric and Michael both on here. Great sports too. Fun guys to talk to. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I they're fantastic. this one I always struggle with in my own head, but I would likely put Testament: The New Order over Testament: The Legacy, and it's hard for me to even say it because I'll flip flop if I think about it too much. But The New Order just had some kind of special something about it for me that I was like, this is unbelievable. And I'll round it out with Nuclear Assault: Survive. I think that record, again, I kind of always loved the bands. Like what happened back then was all these bands were unique. John Connolly from Nuclear Assault sounded like nobody else. Nobody could replicate him. Sean Killian, same thing. Chuck Billy from Testament is just Chuck Billy from Testament. I mean, it's fantastic. So, and then like I said, Millie from Creator. I mean, oh my God, forget it.
It's very hard. It's very hard. Rounding out mine, I like Beneath the Remains from Sepultura. It has a very soft spot with me. And I wanted to pick an Exodus album, and I always come back to I love fucking Fabulous Disaster. And I watched Rob Flynn's podcast the other day, and they were talking on there about the drum and guitar tones. Now, me not being a musician, but apparently that stands out to a lot of people on that album.
Oh, for sure. Fabulous Disaster is a huge one for me too. And I know there's some polarizing views on that because, you've obviously got the Bonded by Blood camp. Bonded by Blood is a legendary record.
Yeah.
And
I think it loses something as people think Toxic Waltz, which still holds up well and still gets a room full of 1,000 people, as evidenced by the other night, still moving. The lyrics maybe come off a little cheesy, to some people, but it was the parlance of the time, so to speak. It was 1989, 88, whatever it was.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget about Pleasures of the Flesh, but it's got some killer stuff. It's not my personal favorite. And I'll tell you, for me, it's crazy to say it because I do agree with Fabulous Disaster. I mean, Last Act of Defiance is one of the greatest thrash songs I've ever heard. But, Impact is Imminent is no slouch for me.
I know.
Some people hate it, but man, there's some songs on that record that are just killer.
Gary Holden said that he thinks some of his best riffs are on that one, though.
They're killer. The guitar work, the H team was just absolutely locked in.
And for some reason, not to impugn Rob Duke's work or the late Paul Bailoff, but I don't know. When I hear a thrash voice, I always hear Zetro. He's just synonymous with thrash, a lot like John Connolly's voice with Nuclear Assault. You know what I mean?
And Zet was there from back in the day. The Legacy. I mean, I think he formed the Legacy. So there's so much history there. And I will say another thing. Talk about the top five. Because I just keep thinking. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Beneath the Remains. I love Beneath the Remains. My favorite Sepp record ever. But Forbidden Evil, I mean, are you kidding me? That and Twisted Into Form. I mean, they're two different records, but I love them both. And it's just, dude, that stuff.
There's always going to be bands you're going to feel bad about leaving off. Like I didn't cite a Death Testament album. I didn't cite a Death Angel album. I feel bad about
a top 10.
I know. It'd
have
to be a top 10, but then we'd be debating that, and it would turn into a 15 and a 20, and the battle goes on and on and on. So any other stuff to plug that's going on in the Outlier camp? I mean, I gotta allow you your shameless plugs because as our great American poet Dionne Warwick said, that's what friends are for. I mean,
listen,
plug away, man.
She likely will be the inspiration behind this EP. We're excited to get back in the studio. Jamie King is our guy, much love to Jamie, and he's done all of the Outlier stuff thus far, and he's excited for us to come back just as we are. Between that, we're really trying not to play anything unless the show really, seems to be like, okay, let's get out one more time or something before we, release something. But we just got to focus on this stuff. We had been thinking about this for the last couple of years, and every time something else came up, it was like, hey, let's do that show. And so we all got to a point where we felt like we were like this nostalgia band, like locally, we're playing shows, we're playing the same stuff from Taste of Blood and, the Thrashing the Vault EP, all this kind of stuff. And we just, I don't want to bore people. It's that old can of Coke kind of thing. And, it's just, but I think this EP, everybody says this stuff, but I think it'll surprise some people to some degree. I think, the technicality is higher. There's some more vocal range to it. And, the EP thing versus the full length. I'm such a full length guy. I'm still the side A, side
B.
Me
too. But the EP seems to be the way that everybody seems to be pointing, unless everybody seems to be going either like singles because the attention span is so short. People want to keep their name out there and relevant and just keep firing off shots at people, or EPs, small batches of well-crafted songs. And
I think
you don't have the public's attention for that long anymore. People aren't going to sit down and listen to a 75-minute Metallica album. They're going to find the two songs that they like, and that's it. I mean,
if you're lucky, and
you got them for a second. That's it.
Yeah, it's all the streaming stuff because you have the opportunity to do it. I can't tell you how many times I'll trade, messages with, one of my boys, John Powers up there, and he'll be like, send me some links. Hey, what are you listening to? And he's got some stuff. And I'm like, hey, what about this? And, and you forget to come back to it because there's so much stuff. We've had this conversation so many times, but, so I think the EP is the right thing to do, 25, 30 minutes. And we've got our core fan base, and I think they're excited, and we're excited for them to hear this stuff. And then just see what happens from there. We'd like to get back to doing some shows. We did back in 19, pre-COVID, we did some shows up the East Coast. We don't have the ability to do a ton. But we did like three shows, in like Richmond, Virginia, Pittsburgh area. And then back in Utica, New York, hometown, and which was awesome. It was a great show. I know you were there, and Ryan was there, and it's just awesome to experience that. I
actually drove down into Utica that night on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't enter Utica much on purpose.
No, for sure. And I'll tell you, truth be told,
and I left the Kevlar home too, by the way.
You needed it. I think somebody got shot across the street like 2 days before, literally. And but that show, like, there was some thought in my mind that would be the end for me, just to kind of do that show and maybe just fold it up because, it just felt right. It was a return to, a scene that's near to my heart. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But the response was killer, and, it just invigorates you. And so, here we are almost 4 years later, but we hope to get that out in mid 23 and then really get right back in maybe towards the end of 24 with another 5. And kind of do that, like, the first couple Kiss records, right? It was like bang, bang.
Yeah.
And I think if we could do that, it's better. It keeps you in everybody's imagination, and you're not going to churn songs out every 6 months. People get bored of that too.
Don't end up like Kiss at the tail end of their career where we can't fucking get rid of you.
That's right. Yeah.
You don't want to go on a farewell tour that lasts a fucking decade. You can't do that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Now we can't get rid of these guys. I mean, people are going to keep on throwing money. How about a shout out to this bunch of hooligans that you got playing with you, your bandmates? You got a pretty good lineup now, a pretty stable lineup.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. We've been together for at least coming up on 7 years now.
And having known you as long as I have, I will say that's a long time for a group of guys to tolerate you.
Man, you're not kidding. Sometimes people can't make it past 7 minutes. It'd be surprising to see how many people can get through this interview. But the guys, Adam on drums, Rick guitar, Anthony singing, Cisco on bass. Cisco and I have been together the longest out of the group. Followed by Adam and Anthony right after, and then Rick to complete the whole thing. And it's just been a killer vibe. There were some previous members that in the past, and that just wasn't the right fit. Didn't have the right energy, and just didn't fit in general. So everything has just really worked out well. In the 7 years we've been together, very minimal friction, if any at all, and just it's fun, man. It's like it's like comedy hour. We have practice tonight, in fact, and it's just. You go almost more for the hang than you do to even play music. It's a good time. So everybody's excited to get into the studio for sure.
So you'd be surprised by this, but rumors in the metal underground or the underground metal world abound. Okay, I'm getting flooded with questions. Okay, and I'm going to call you on the carpet here. Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
A drastic departure from other Outlier stuff. There's rumors that you guys may be applying lipstick and guy liner.
I won't confirm or deny.
A la early glam metal Pantera.
Yeah.
Will Outlier become a new metal band?
We have flirted with it very, very heavily, and we're just simply not.
Dispel the rumors here. Dispel the rumors here on PodScum. That won't happen.
That's right. Listen, it's where everything comes to roost. So we've tried very hard to fit that.
Will anybody in the band be donning spandex or bullet belts or cod pieces?
We're more codpiece focused, but I know Cisco does like to wear spandex, assless spandex, but we're going to save that for, the promo photos for the.
Any neon colors come into effect, i.e. pink or green, a la early Poison.
Definitely one of my all-time favorite bands. Are you kidding me?
Is Outlier available for bar mitzvahs, weddings, barbecues, birthdays, christenings, or baptisms?
We focus more on the child entertainment, so we do like a lot of like kindergarten graduation parties, So
this is family. So this is family friendly music then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
you can hear an Outlier song maybe at a wedding.
It's you can. We've been we've had to turn down a number of weddings here recently, but the bigger part is you look at the album cover for like Taste the Blood and the song titles. I mean, it speaks really about like childhood entertainment, just, playing daycares and, stuff like that. So, I think that's really where we're going. It's tough to, nail down an audience, or a demographic, but I think that's ours, from
Will
ages
you draw
3 to
the line at department store grand openings? You won't play those, will you?
It depends. We've really tried to, work with like the Walmarts and stuff, but they're too big. So we're really focusing on like,
too much censorship with Walmart.
Yeah, we're focusing on more like the Dollar Tree and, Dollar General type stores, and,
okay. Go ahead.
Now, I was just say our CD is in there, but it doesn't sell for $1. It's like
alternate
50.
cover too, right? Probably an alternate cover.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't have those sick, violent Cannibal Corpse inspired covers.
No.
You guys have shot videos before. In the videos, will anybody stroke and or lick their instrument?
That hit the cutting floor for Pillars, I think. I will say, in all truthfulness, when we filmed Pillars, he's a guy named Justin Reich, who's a fantastic director and videographer. He's done stuff with like Black Label Society. He did stuff with Ace Frehley. Like, and this guy's legit. He does some really killer stuff, and he's such a fun dude to work with. But we did Pillars and definitely drank way too much during that session, and we thought we had this really cool shot of me playing the lead coming down the stairs because it was this really red, it was just this cool thing. And we got the cut back, and I was like, "Hey, what happened to that stuff on the stairs?" She's like, "Yeah, not usable." So
what was usable about it? Were you drunk? You were stumbling down the stairs?
Yeah. You couldn't coordinate the guitars with the video. No matter how hard
the coordination things.
It was terrible. And,
so
and I remember
your hands and feet couldn't work at the same time. You're saying?
Yes. Yeah, so when I watch that video, I'm surprised that it came out even as well as it did, based on how much drinking was going on that day for myself. But I was excited. It was fun. Obviously,
people that aren't going to understand the humor and sarcasm between us, I will dispel all those rumors. Outliar, heavy as hell. They don't play department stores. There's no spandex involved. It's straight on a full assault of thrash metal. I can assure the viewers and or listeners out there that they will not be getting any of those things.
There you go. That's important.
That's just something I have to make fun of you about. But one thing I will not make fun of you about, I will throw you in the furnace right now, and you will answer these questions quickly and efficiently, and then I will grade you.
Okay, I'm ready, man. That's a big challenge.
Merciful Fate or Black Sabbath?
Black Sabbath.
What's larger, Bon Jovi's bank account or Tommy Lee's cock?
God, Bon Jovi's bank account.
Okay. North Carolina Tar Heels or the Dukies?
Duke.
Yeah, really? I may come back and take opposition with some of those. We'll do correcting at the end, just like school. Which angel? Death Angel, Dark Angel?
Death Angel.
I knew you'd pick them. Okay, the better Cannibal Corpse album cover, Butchered at Birth or Violence Unimagined? And I will tell you right now that these made Paul Mazurkiewicz, the drummer, these are his top 2 on his top 10 list.
Okay, yeah, it'd have to be Butchered at Birth, but man, that's so tough because Violence Unimagined is
pretty
maybe
disgusting.
Their best record.
Okay. The better Chuck, Billy or Schuldiner?
I'll get some hate for this. Chuck Billy.
Okay, I wanted to leave the livestock out of it, but cattle decapitation or goat whore?
Cattle decap for sure.
I would have put Lamb of God in there, man, because they are also influenced by cattle or livestock. But
I'll take the hate there too and put Lamb of God over all of them.
I guess these are two kind of terms that mean the same thing, but Overkill or Megadeth?
Overkill.
Okay. Oh boy. Would you rather listen to? We talked about this at the top of the interview. Rather listen to Metallica's Load or be publicly executed by firing squad?
I'm gonna go with Metallica Load. I just need.
You sure about that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You'd rather be getting hit by those bullets, but you'd rather get hit by those songs than those bullets.
Yeah,
and of course, the last one right here, and you have to be mindful of who you're talking to. Which Van Halen era, Roth or Hagar?
Hagar. You kidding?
I knew. I should have even asked that. I knew you'd have the right answer. I guess going back over these, I guess I would say you got most of them right. I mean, it's hard for me to fail you, although I probably failed accounting in high school because of you, but.
That is true. I remember sitting in
and then oddly enough, what the hell did you go on to fucking become? An accountant, you fucker.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Here I am slaving away in healthcare, understaffed, overworked.
It's funny, and I have to goof. Obviously, I was kidding.
I have to leave the hair at home when I go to work. I mean,
I kidding on the Hagar thing, Roth all day. But all of that aside, I remember being in accounting class. You and I sitting in accounting in high school, and I remember we had, I was in a thrash band called Catatonic way back then. And we played a show horribly at that, but we played a show in front of Death and Carcass and Pestilence was the tour. It was on the Spiritual Healing Tour.
Yeah.
And it was when the wheels fell off with Death. Like everybody left the band and it was just Chuck and some replacements at the time. And Pestilence got held at the border, which sucked because Consuming Impulse was that cycle, which would have been awesome. And Carcass was just before they were really going to turn into one of my favorites on Necroticism. They were playing, I think, on Symphonies of Sickness. So here we're this, goofy thrash metal band from, Utica. And, we play that show. And I get insanely hammered because the performance was trash. The new material we were doing was like thrash, funk, punk. It was awful stuff. I quit the band shortly thereafter. But nevertheless, I think you had bought a Spiritual Healing Tour shirt. And I remember seeing that in the accounting class. The next day was the first day of school or something.
Yeah,
the next
I love that album.
Yeah, for sure. It's fantastic.
My favorite Death album.
With Murphy on it. Oh, my God. So, and then I ended up, I started with the whole accounting thing because I talked to a guidance counselor and he said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I just want to play in a thrash metal band." And so I said, "I think I want to manage bands, And he said, "Oh, if you want to do that, you got to get into accounting." And that's why I started doing it. Because at the time I was speaking to Debbie Abono, who managed a legendary manager out in the Bay Area, Forbidden, Violence, Possessed.
Very instrumental to that scene. Yeah.
Oh my God. Anybody who knows her, she needs no introduction, but people who don't should do their homework. I mean, she's just a wonderful human being. So
good lady.
Was speaking to her back then about having her manage Catatonic. And she was so kind and saying, "Well, I'm really tied up with this band Forbidden. When they come out on the East Coast, we'll do some shows together." And we were so bad. Like, she was so nice. She should have been like, "Your band sucks."
Yeah.
But anyway, nevertheless, but that just inspired me to want to like manage bands. Right. And so I stayed with this accounting thing, did it through college. And then I just realized I was like, it wasn't for me, it was going to be too difficult. That the scene really started to just get swallowed up, 94, 96 type era. And, so I just went on, became a CPA, and the rest, I guess, is history. But it served me well in terms of being able to negotiate, be able to talk with people in the industry and stuff. So it's crazy. But I love keeping the long hair for as long as it'll stay. Just to stay true to my roots and stuff. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm metal as fuck. So
I think my downfall was, other than you sitting behind me and talking to me a lot, every time I looked at the accounting teacher, the only numbers I could think of were 69. I mean, that's it. Those were the only numbers that was the only numbers I was wanting to deal with. She was a cutie.
That may be true. A little mousy teacher that we had,
Mousy, huh? I think she might have been a freak between the sheets, though. I mean,
could be. Only one way to find out. Get her on the show.
I know. I know. That would be the reunion of sorts, huh? I don't think she'd have anything good to. I don't think. Well, she'd probably have good things to say about you because you obviously took to it very well. And I'm not sure if you fucked your way to an A or not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, teachers have certainly done that kind of shit, imprudent shit with students before. And it's not for me to pass judgment or for you to dish out on this show. But if it happened, I would just probably keep it under wraps. It has served you well. I mean, lots of people have fucked their way to the top.
There you
There's
go.
nothing wrong with it.
That's it. That's it.
Some might say it's an industry standard.
That's right. That's right.
There's
get on
nothing wrong
studio
with
couches.
Yeah.
But it's been cool, man. It's like I said, I think as boring as the shit is that that I've done throughout my career or whatever. It's been so cool to have this outlet, and like I said, being lucky enough to know some people who really do this stuff for a living, and I've got so much respect for them because I have an appreciation for how difficult it is, and we couldn't do it. We're too old, and it's too established in our lives and families and stuff like that. And I see bands that are getting out there and hustling for it, man. It's fucking hard, and people who decide like, I'm not going to go to the show or whatever, I'm not going to support it or whatever. It's like, man, you're just eating your own young as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, go buy merch.
For sure, fucking sure. Yeah, for sure, dude. Every show I go to, even if like I'm not super in love with the band, I'm buying their stuff because I'm like, these guys are on the fucking road,
right?
And it's just cool, and they appreciate the fuck out of it. It gives you an opportunity to talk to them, rep their stuff. I love doing it. I'm right there with you, man.
And even if that money gets divvied up, however it gets divvied up, man, like maybe they eat a little bit better that night. You know what I mean? Or these guys are slogging it out on the road. Some of them are in vans. Some of them are lucky enough to have buses, but some of them are piling into sprinters and vans and shit like that, and cramped up and driving for 10, 12 hours. You know what I mean? To come and entertain us. I mean, it's
absolutely. Yeah,
it's certainly a daunting. It's certainly a daunting road, especially now in this technology age. It's not a good time to be a band right now.
Yeah, it's hard, and gas prices and just everything, inflation, all sorts of crazy shit that's taking place. And I mean, you look at all of it, and man, it's fucking hard. We've got
that being said, though, but that being said, is extreme music though in good hands though? Because you go to a lot of shows, you've got your ear to the pavement in the scene a lot. Who are some good young up and coming bands that are going to keep thrash alive?
There's a good mix of the older legacy bands, and then some of the newer bands who really haven't they haven't come out in like the last couple of years, but they might be the last 10 or 15 years.
They'd be young, but they'd be young to guys like us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got Ex Mortis out in the Bay Area, awesome dudes. We played with them with Obituaries a few years back.
I've had Yadron on here. Yep. Nice guy.
So they're all super cool, man. I saw him with Death Angel as well, right before the pandemic hit. You've got all those, all of those bands that, kind of came up, Municipal Waste, even though they're not, young per se anymore, out of Richmond, Virginia.
Zetra, who we mentioned, his boys are out there doing it.
Patriot, for sure. Again, been around for a long time at this point, but, could be unknown in certain circles or whatever. But those guys are flying the flag, almost like you see with like the Metallica kids, right, playing in these different kind of bands. Obviously, they're not playing thrash from what I see, but they're like, maybe 10 years older than those kids, but they're flying the flag of their parents, playing the heavy as fuck stuff. And, so it's really interesting to see. But I will say this, and not to put it on a downer, but I do get nervous about this. I read some articles, here recently with some, big name industry people, and they're saying, hey, look, there's not a lot of kids playing fucking music anymore, right? It's dudes in their room or girls in their room, like programming shit.
I know.
And you don't have this organic thing going on with 4 and 5 people getting into a room and creating music, and it really bothers me. I asked my daughter about that. Hey, any kids that you go to school with, are they starting bands and stuff? And man, it not a single person. And it's so few and far between. So when I see, I almost don't even care what they sound like. If they're metal tinged and they're playing stuff and they're the younger generation, man, I love it. I really do.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty sad because I think about that when sports being a big part of my life, and you don't even drive by and see kids playing sandlot ball anymore, or shooting hoops, or just out at parks on swings or anything anymore. They would just rather be inside. That technology is really, it's been kind of twofold. It's been great to be able to do things like this where we're in 2 different states able to talk, but it has made a generation of kids very lazy, it seems like.
Yeah, there's definitely a big difference, man. And like I said, I'm hoping there'll be some influx of a bunch of bands that pop up. But every time I think about it, there's maybe a band I haven't heard of, let's say, but they're not young, right? They've been around for 10 years. They just, pop up, and I'm like, holy fuck, who are these guys?
Who's this new band?
And they're like, oh, started in 2004 or whatever. And it's like, so that's the kind of stuff that I really wish there was more, up and coming things that were happening. I wish I had something better to say, because I just don't hear it. It's the young generation are those bands that have been around for 15 years. I'd love to hear about some thrash scene that's in Western Kentucky or something that started 2 years ago or whatever.
Right. Now, okay, so now maybe we can shift gears for a minute away from the music for a minute. Now we can let you fucking spew off your Yankees bullshit. Go ahead.
Sports has lost a lot with me, through the years. It's tough to follow a lot of it.
I will say this though, I don't think that fucking that Aaron Judge and Butthead have ever been seen in the same room before.
There may be some similarities, in terms of the way that they look. I gotcha.
Yeah.
No, it was fun seeing that. Being a New Yorker originally, about for half of my life. It's always fun to see the Yankees do something. I love the teams that polarize people. I'm a Cowboy fan, and I always say a recovering Cowboy fan. And they fucking suck, and all that stuff. But
they beat my Giants. They beat my Giants here. Why? They'll probably be old news by the time I get this episode up. But as we're talking here right now, your Cowboys have just defeated my New York Giants on Monday.
Yeah. It's kind of the Super Bowl of sorts, right? The NFC least. And dude, it's fun to see Judge do something that's historic in nature. He seems like a good dude for that stuff. But until I find out that he's a big fucking metalhead, I got to reserve judgment.
Well, someone sent me a picture of Aaron Judge here and doing something that I can't really seem to explain right here. I don't know what's going on here in this picture, but he seems to be holding a giant dildo. But I don't know what's going on right there, but it says they don't call us the Yanks for nothing. He seems to have his hand in his pants down here. I don't know what's going on here, but That looks to be a pretty good sized dildo, though, if the audience can see that, though. And that was actually taken in the locker room at Yankee Stadium not that long ago.
It's fucking uncanny. It's uncanny.
The resemblance is uncanny, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how he's going to explain that if that thing hits the tabloids. I mean,
after this podcast, it certainly will. We know your views are way up there, so this is going to go fucking viral.
I'm just going to say that if balls are that close to your face in baseball, you probably shouldn't be wearing the soft cap. You should probably have a helmet on. That's dangerous.
It is dangerous. That's right. Safety first, always.
I know from playing baseball most of my life that a fastball to the face, no matter what kind of ball it is, a major league hard ball or a fleshy one with hair. I mean, it's probably not going to feel good. Not going to feel great. All right, so let's talk about what this new album is going to be like. Okay, so we know it's going to be an EP. Do we have any titles? Do we have any? You said we've got a couple of songs already in the can. Yep. Like, what are we thinking about? Are we thinking about another arrogant and narcissistic album cover like we got with the last one there, where it was where we're not going to come on record and say that it was a picture of you, but it was a picture of you?
I've heard that a number of times, and I swear the truth.
Answer the allegations.
That's right. That's right. I swear that our artist Maggonmeister, who's the best with all things rotten. Check him out if you don't know him. But he drew that, and it never really fucking dawned on me. But it does look like me, except the dude's jacked, and I'm clearly not. Yeah. But it is pretty funny. I've heard that. It's like, dude, did you really have that fucking album cover drawn after you? I did not, but that's fucking hilarious. But nevertheless, I think this record is just gonna be really hate fueled, just based on how much
hating these days. What are a bunch of a bunch of middle to age to older guys hating on like these days? Like, what's everybody in the band angry about? I'm like, where do you get the impetus to go in and write these songs? Like, I'm always interested. Do you get shit from the paper, from the news? You know what I mean? Like, what do you what gives you the fuel?
It's really three things, in all seriousness. It's thinning hair, sagging balls, and a protruding gut from beer. Those are the three things.
That'll do it for most guys. Yeah, that'll do it.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, I've seen so much like, you find
the angry Republican in yourself.
Yeah, no, not at all. I fucking don't even give a fuck about politics. But I will tell you, I think related to everything that I think it kind of drives us, like we've always been really an outlier of sorts. We've got our detractors, for whatever fucking reason, locally or whatever, and we just don't give a fuck. So like we just decide to kind of hunker down and do our own thing, and if we're happy, that's pretty much all we give a fuck about. But the music itself, I think it just has such an aggressive overtone to it. The technicality's up, the speed is up, and we're excited for it. It's not, we don't have any specific like anger towards anyone or any particular thing. It's more of just like, man, this is just like a natural reaction to just being, kicked in the fucking head collectively as a society, and I think you just play music that's aggressive, and you just like, fuck, what goes with this? Like just saying, standing up for yourself and just fucking taking no prisoners kind of thing. So, no real agenda, just angry. So and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Is there enough girls kicking ass out there in fucking music nowadays?
There are some bands out there that I see. There's whether it's female fronted or females, all throughout the band. I know you probably know the thrash band Nervosa out of South America. I believe, and fucking killer. It's all female band, and it's so much different than like what we were growing up in. No female played this kind of music, and now you've got people in the bands doing it, and they're not objectified in any way, shape, or form by anybody with a brain in their fucking head. It's like they're like, dude, cool, they're flying the fucking flag, and so there's different bands like the Butcher Babies. I know it's kind of a polarizing thing. A lot of people, I've seen them, a couple of times. I'm like, it's fucking cool, man. They're into aggressive shit, and
does Bret Michaels fall into the category of female singers?
I think so, for sure.
What about Tammy? What about your old pal Tammy?
Tammy, man, I got a reserved comment. There's a lot of lawyers involved on that. It's tough for me to really say anything. But yeah.
I'll tell you one of my favorite female groups though. Three Real Hotties are Hanson. I love those girls. They're cute.
Oh, they are good looking girls.
Sexy little things. Yeah.
I think they're on tour presently. So who doesn't love them some mbop?
I love that mbop. Yeah, I do. So are you receptive though? If by some infinite chance we were able to get Tammy down on here, could we get a peace summit? I mean, could we get some talking going on where like you will come back onto the podcast if I were able to attain an interview with him?
I won't rule it out. I've got to talk to, my lawyers and see if it's, okay. We'll have to go through
It's
several.
gotten that far, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's both sides, lots and lots and lots of red tape there to go through. But hey, listen, if his people want to speak to my people, I'm not going to rule it out.
If it would have just been a verbal disagreement, could all this have been swept under the rug, or was it because that knives came out and fucking weapons were involved and all that? Is that what turned this whole thing really ugly?
He just didn't belong, man. He didn't belong in 1989. He didn't belong. Yeah,
you are strong. You are one of those guys that's passionate about the genre.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a glam rock dude. I never have been. Catchy as fuck, super talented stuff, but I just never ever could. It was like I was closeted on that, the songs were killer, 17 by Winger and whatever else. It was like, man, these are like super hooky songs, but I was always so angry that those dudes didn't play guitars in bands that I loved. I was used to the out of key solos and frenetic solos and stuff. Yeah. So when you had bands like Forbidden coming together and the fucking solos were killer, it's like that's what we needed, So that was never the hair rock. I don't even call it glam metal. People call it metal. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It's glam.
Right, but there are artists though who admittedly will play extreme music and they will come off stage and it's the last thing they want to listen to or see. Could it be that Tame Me Down though, man, likes to play that glam kind of faggy style of rock or whatever? Homophobic slurs aside, which I did not mean at all. But I mean, couldn't he just be a fan there and just say, Jesus, man, I play this kind of music, but my real passion is death metal, but I just can't find 4 like-minded guys out on the Sunset Strip to start a band with.
That's right. I would have never, ever thought of that at 15, but I hope so. It's like, hey, I remember seeing an interview with Kerry King some years back, and he was like, look, people were like, oh, what do you think of Godsmack? And what do the Five Finger Death Punch, Disturbed, whatever. And he's like, look, man, he's like, people are into it. Marilyn Manson, I think is what he was talking about too. He's like, people are going to listen to that stuff and they're ultimately going to want something heavier and they're going to come down Slayer Road. And I think he was right. Cause that happened to me, man. Like, growing up, I got into the Twisted Sister stuff, which I still always look at Twisted Sister as they were a traditional heavy metal band. I fucking loved them. And, so Twisted Sister led me to Testament and King Diamond, and then to every thrash band in the world, DRI, MOD, pick the fucking band, Nuclear Assault, whatever. And so it's just like that gateway drug, So it would be awesome. It'd be a good story. That would be the only way that I would talk to Tammy, is if he admitted it was a gateway drug. I'm like, all right, I'm old and mature enough now to recognize that.
Well, at least you are offering up a somewhat of a peace offering.
That's right.
Now, I want to get your take on this because as I mentioned earlier, I did go see and there were 4 bands on the bill, but I did go to Syracuse. This past Tuesday I saw the Bay Area tour, and then the Tuesday before that I saw Megadeth. And you had mentioned Five Finger Death Punch. They actually closed the show, and I had a real problem with anybody anybody coming on after Dave Mustaine. I just feel it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah, it's a popularity thing. I mean, I get it. I'm not into the Five Finger Death Punch stuff. But I mean, look, dude, they're playing some version of metal, and like I said, they're going to force people to look for something heavier down the road. And I'm sure it's a good move for Megadeth. I'm sure they got paid well enough, and it exposes them to. I mean, Five Finger Death Punch undoubtedly has a huge fan base, and but I could appreciate that. Like, you'd be like, I would think Megadeth would close this, but popularity says otherwise, I'm sure. And going back to it, dude, honestly, in all seriousness, when you're saying people coming off stage and they're not listening to like extreme stuff or whatever, we have the same thing, like an Outlier. I mean, man, we goof around. We're at practice. Half of it is bullshit, and the other stuff is us really fucking getting after it. And we don't listen to fucking black metal. As soon as practice is over for 3 straight hours or whatever. Like, we're listening to 80s bullshit or mashups of Dio and fucking Rick James, whatever. Which is fantastic.
Right.
So I get it, man. And I think that's, as you get older and your mind expands like that, and you realize, like, you have this level of pretentiousness where you're like, I can't listen to this, or I can only listen to that. I did the same thing when I was a kid, man. It was like, when I started listening to death metal, I got rid of all my thrash. Like, thrash wasn't heavy enough anymore.
Right.
And then I go back and buy all the fucking shit, 5 years later. Like, what the fuck was I thinking? But you do dumb shit like that when you're younger.
I got to confess, man, that I felt a great deal of guilt sometimes, man. Like, when I would go out, and not that I was like, overly grew up like overly religious or anything, but I remember sometimes stuff getting a little too dark where I almost felt guilty about owning an album. You know what I mean? Like a Deicide album, like almost like something was going to come down and strike me dead or something. You know what I mean? I almost thought like, is this too blasphemous? Because, you know, it's like you said, you want to push the envelope and you're looking for the next most brutal, faster thing that really shocks the hell out of you. But then, so I want to get your opinion on that. Like, can music sometimes get so heavy and just so distorted and become just a wall of sound that it loses its sense of melody and ceases to be enjoyable to listen to? I mean, can music get too heavy? I.e. like a Portal or like an Anal Cunt or something where it's just like a wall of noise, you know?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's obviously, it's all subjective to the listener, but for me personally, we're, I guess, hook driven, we try to write stuff that is memorable or somebody can like remember it. It's based on old Metallica, Master of Puppets type adage, stuff. Because, for me, I don't, maybe I'm just too fucking simple. I don't know, but it's hard for me to, listen to something that's so super extreme that I can't find a hook. I listen to a lot of extreme shit. Psychroptic is right up at the top of my list, and those guys are as fucking technical as anybody. But their fucking riffs are just hooky as fuck. They're awesome. Go Rod, another band out of France, one of my favorites. But then if you put me in the direction of some really heavy black metal type stuff or whatever, when it's just pure chaos, constant blast beat or whatever, it's got to have a hook, man. It won't work for me personally if it doesn't. But some people love it. Some people love that charge of like, this is so fucking extreme. But look, dude. Metal in every way, shape, or form these days is not at all scary like it was in 1989 and 1990. Right. Dude, there's kids listening to it today, and it's not extreme in the sense of like, wow. Like, but when we were in high school, if you told people you listen to fucking King Diamond, people are like, oh my God, what was the phrase you'd always hear? Kill your mother, kill your father, right? That's what everybody said. Oh, you listen to kill your mother, kill your father. That was the fucking phrase I heard a million times growing up. Now, like, there's nothing scary about it.
And yet I don't know anybody that murdered their parents. Not one person I know in my personal life that ever murdered a mother or a father.
Yeah,
seriously. I know nobody that did that. Now, since Metallica's come up and we're talking about hooks and riffs and Metallica's come up in the conversation a couple of times, I've recently seen on social media platforms where there still seems to be some sour grapes with Dave Mustaine in the Metallica guys. Some fences have been mended, but there still seems to be, there's always going to be some, he's going to be a little salty. He still claims that there's still some of his stuff that showed up on albums even after he was dismissed from the band. And any credibility to any of that, you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, dude, listen, there's tons of truth to Dave Mustaine being the godfather of thrash metal. I mean, I am in the Metallica camp all day versus Megadeth, personally, but you can't deny what Dave Mustaine did for thrash metal, and I think it is fair that he is, very widely considered the godfather of thrash metal. But, and I think what he's saying, I mean, a lot of stuff that was on, I mean, Kill 'Em All, was all of his stuff as far as I know. And a lot of stuff of his was on Ride the Lightning. I don't know, past that point, but, at the end of the day, he was a contributor to the band. They used the stuff that worked, and those fucking records are great. Ride the Lightning. I love every single note on that record, regardless of who wrote it. But there is other stuff like these people who interview these guys, these fucking conversations are old and tired, and they're asking him the same questions, and a couple words get translated a certain way or whatever. So it can get taken out of context, but it is Dave Mustaine. It bores me to tears, because it's the same fucking story. However, I do like that Mustaine still has a chip on his shoulder because it's who he is. And if he was like, hey, I love Metallica, we're the best of friends, it's all water under the bridge, there's something to be said for him continuing to grind a fucking axe. Yeah. And sometimes conflict is good, man, and it probably inspires him to write.
It probably motivates him. Yeah, I was going to say he probably uses it to a certain extent as motivation. And so where do you stand on the whole, like, I know it's been a couple of years now since they were inducted, and I don't put much I don't put much stock in what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has to say, but should Dave Mustaine have been up there with those guys that night?
Thinking through that and just drawing on some personal experience, I would not, if I were Metallica, I would not have brought Dave up there either. Right.
No.
I just wouldn't have, because, it's, I think I read something here fairly recently that like Metallica's like, look, dude, this guy was in the band for like a year or two. Right. And sure, he contributed to some shit that's wildly fucking popular, but the band has been together for fucking 40 years. Right. So I've had dudes in my bands for a year or two and they're not in it. And I couldn't give a fuck less. And if they were like, oh, I was like, dude, you're not in it now. It doesn't matter. So no, I think it's 100% the right thing. There's no way that you needed to be there.
And do you think he'll get in on his own merits with Megadeth?
He should. I mean, I think there's validity to him being there, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is like.
Well, I guess it's part of a bigger question, and I've had it with a couple of people on here though. And again, it's not putting any stock in anything that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, whoever's running that place is just got to be out of their fucking cotton picking mind sometimes, man. Hip hop artists getting in ahead of legendary, rock bands or whatever. But that aside, though, is there not enough emphasis put? Maybe they need their own Hall of Fame or a certain part of that one. But will extreme metal ever be allowed into the doors, or will it always be kind of cast aside?
I can't imagine that it would. I mean, it's surprising that the Grammys have, started to indoctrinate, some heavy bands, getting, nominated for that kind of stuff. But I don't think it means much to the bands that are nominated, whatever. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure it does. It's some level of recognition, but it's never televised on like the big, show or whatever. But man, listen, I think there's a huge opportunity for a metal Hall of Fame. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you know how many people would go to that, including us? Like if it was in the middle of wherever the fuck, and you go in and here's the traditional heavy metal wall, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all this stuff. Yeah. And then here's the thrash metal wall, and here's the death metal wall, here's the whatever black metal.
New wave of British heavy metal, all that stuff. Yeah.
Dude, you and I being baseball guys, you know what the Cooperstown Hall of Fame looks like. Imagine a fucking metal Hall of Fame.
I know. Awesome. I feel like if we build it, they will come.
Dude, I'm 100% with you, dude. This is what this is all about. We're gonna create this fucking thing.
Me, you, and Tammy Down are gonna fucking cut that ribbon together.
Goddamn right. They're in the.
We're gonna open the doors to that place. We're gonna open the doors to that place, and Tammy's gonna be looking for his wall, and it's gonna be the bathroom wall.
Fucking perfect.
Perfect segue, right? Listen, I want to make it happen, man. I want to bring closure to this. I think the metal community needs to see hair metal and thrash unite.
Yeah. The hair rock and thrash metal, two different things.
We need to bring this to its inevitable end. I have reached out to Tammy Down, so we are in the works.
Listen, dude, have his people talk to my people.
As I get older, I don't want to see axes grind. I know we just talked about how good it is for Dave Mustaine to keep grinding that axe because he needs it for motivation, man. But who wants negativity in their life, though? I don't need it to fuel my life.
There has been some rumors where Outlier, would we consider taking Faster Pussycat out as a support act? Potentially, if we can get this thing done right.
So that being said right there, Outlier. Where can we find Outlier for people that want to find Outliar? I'm sure you're on all the music platforms, the website, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure, man. OUTLIARmetal.com, OUTLIAR metal.com.
And I do want to bring up that at one point in time, though, there was a battle for the name, though, correct?
Yeah, there was some band out of California, like a rock band, which truthfully were pretty good, and they had the same name, and but I own the trademark to it, and so we had to reach out and try to scare them away with a cease and desist or whatever, that kind of stuff. So had to do that, but they just disappeared.
I'll tell you who has a big problem with that, man. And I've had two members of the band on here, and it's really great guys. Is the band King, and they spell it Kyng. But the funny thing is, they've had to send out numerous cease and desist letters, and it's still funny because if you go on, we subscribe to the family plan for Apple Music. If you go on there are so many people now that want that goddamn name, and most of them are hip hop artists, and it's so funny because they'll just. I think the band King has the Kyng, and that's theirs. So everyone's trying to add an extra 2 G's to the end of it or a couple extra N's and elongate it. I don't know what it is, man. I tried to ask Eddie. I tried to ask Pepe. I'm like, what is it about King spelled in that way that everybody wants to get their hands on?
Yeah, I will say for sure, one of my absolute favorite bands, man, outside of the thrash metal world. I fucking love King.
Great band. Yeah, shout out to those guys. I actually just put that episode up with Pepe.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch it. Fucking love that record. What's it? I forget what's it called.
I love the acoustic one there. The acoustic.
Oh, it's great. But the one is it Breathe in the Water?
Breathe in the Water. Yeah,
dude, that record is a fucking masterpiece from start to finish. And so I'm such a huge fan. But anyway, we there's different people of the Bust My Balls. They'll send me there's an Outlier with a V instead of an O. I think there's a band right now kicking around with the OVTLIER or something, you know. And
but you got to pick your battles, right? You can't go take up.
Yeah.
You can't take opposition with everybody out there.
I mean, sure, we could call ourselves Metallica and put, you know, K's instead of C's and V's instead of A's. And
right.
You know, but listen, man, I got it first, and go fucking check the records. But anyways, you know, it's just silly, but it does suck. You know, we go through that. But I'll tell you, the cease and desist, the only time that really makes any sense in my book is if there's money involved and you can show market confusion and that people are buying their shit instead of yours. The damages are fucking significant, man. It's triple damages. I know enough about that law that hopefully those rap bands or whatever are making some money and King's getting a fucking cut on it. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, this has been a blast, man.
Dude, always, man. It's so nice to catch up and appreciate you having me on. It's nice to get some of the D leaguers out there, you know, giving us a shot, you know, so appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Man, I'm still a D leaguer at this right now. I'm trying to crawl my way out, but the only way that I can really start to promote the page is just playing the waiting game, just getting some content up there. And a few people crawl to the page and have found it, hit or miss, and subscribed or whatever. I can't monetize it yet, which you can actually do through YouTube, but you need X amount of subscribers, X amount of viewers, and a lot of it is just takes flat out time. You know what I mean?
Yep, for sure.
I don't want to go put teasers up of episodes on TikTok or stuff like that. I certainly have ideas and visions and goals of how I can promote it, but it's just I don't want to get people there and just be like, okay, I watched those 3 interviews. Now what? You know what I mean? I've only just put episode number 10 up, so you know I'm getting there. You know, I'm getting there. You know, and then it's upward and onward.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Take Me Down will certainly elevate my views. I mean, if I can, if I can attain a Sunset Strip rock legend like him, I mean,
dude, listen, then
I won't need to get guys like you on anymore.
That's what I'm saying. I'll be a thing of the past. Dude, definitely appreciate it, man. Awesome.
Oh, you know awesome I love you, dude. Man. I'll always have you on, dude. Take Me Down, be damned. Fuck Take Me Down. No, listen,
awesome talking to you, dude.
Yeah, always good talking to you, brother. I love you to death, man.
Same here, man. Talk to you soon, bro.
Outlier, go check them out, man, or this guy will come and fucking impale you. Accountants are allowed to impale people, dude. That's a law in North Carolina.
That's right. It's a new tax law. We'll see it in 23.
That's right. Why not? The government's impaling us all the time, right? So, I mean, Ray, good talking to you, buddy.
Same here, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Talk to you later, brother. Later.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Later. There he goes, folks. That's my old pal, Ray Currie. Please, please, please go check out his band, Outlier, OUTLIAR. They are out of Raleigh, North Carolina. They play kick-ass thrash. You can find their latest album, Taste the Blood, which came out in 2018, on all major music platforms. Go check out the website. Give those guys some love, man. They got just great vocals, ass-kicking fucking songs. You can look at my man Ray's image on the cover of the album, even though he claims it's not him. I know him better than that. He's a narcissistic fucker. That's definitely him. Just kidding, Ray. No, love him to death. One of my oldest friends. Such a talented guitar player. Such a nice guy, man. Go check him out. He's one of those guys doing it local and underground, and just does it for the pure love of it. So please go check out Outlier. Buy some merch. They got some kick-ass merchandise, on their website. And again, go check out Taste the Blood. That was from 2018. They've got other shit out there too, but that's the most recent one. And you heard him right there in the studio in early 2023. So do give them a shot. And hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And as always, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy. And Take Me Down, call me. Let's put this thing to bed.